This is why the Chiefs got him for this situation. It's the fourth act of the play. Joe Montana is center stage. Look at his right elbow.
He's getting the snot kicked out of him, but he gets up every single time, Kyle.
Throws a touchdown. Gibbons.
Montana doesn't get hot in the second half here.
Touchdown.
Is it too crazy to say we could still have the Houston Oilers right now?
It's not that crazy at all.
Hey everybody, welcome to Run It Back. You know what we do here? We pick one National Football League game from yesteryear. Could be 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We get into it, we dissect it, we pick our favorite parts maybe we've forgotten, and maybe the parts that make it more relevant to today's game. And I bring in my friend P. Schrager. Peter Schrager, what's up, buddy?
How we doing, Kyle? There's a game that we chose for this week, and it goes back to 1993. It's the AFC Divisional Round game. The Kansas City Chiefs, led by Joe Montana, taking on the Houston Oilers, led by Warren Moon. It's January 16th, 1994. And I'll tell you why.
Does it have some sort of cohesion, Peter, with the jersey that I'm wearing right now, which happens to be a road white number 12 Buccaneers jersey?
This game obviously has significance because of what the Kansas City Chiefs did in the 2019 playoff run, and this was maybe their biggest playoff win before that. But you're wearing a Brady Buccaneers jersey, and a lot of people are scoffing right now. They're saying, Brady as a Buck, it's going to be ugly. It's going to look like Joe Namath on the Rams or Johnny Unitas on the Chargers. But there is a counter to that. And that is Joe Montana on the Chiefs. And this was one wild season and one wild run by Montana in a huge, huge playoff game in a very, very difficult, hostile place to play.
It's very cool. I think Brady joining the Bucs is kind of reminding people of Montana joining the Chiefs. It's kind of like when you see one of these shows that kids like Stranger Things, where they play a Duran Duran song and then the next generation learns about Duran Duran because they're seeing it and the downloads skyrocket. Here's the deal. This was the last playoff win of Joe Montana's career. This was the last game that Warren Moon played with the Oilers. He went to the Vikings the next year. It's also the last time Buddy Ryan was with the Oilers. He went to the Cardinals the next year. And like you said, a huge comeback in the playoffs with Houston blowing a lead to Kansas City. It reminds us of 2020. So, Peter, there's great stories for both of these teams. I want you to tell everybody the story of the 1993 Kansas City Chiefs.
A fascinating team. I went back and did a deep dive on the 93 Chiefs because you have to remember they've had one playoff win in between 1973 and 1992. So it's not this great, rich, 70s and 80s Chiefs. There's not much heart there. They won the Super Bowl in 70 with Lenny Dawson at quarterback, but there's like this great void of Chiefs football for nearly 2 decades. They go and they get Montana. When I say Montana has not started a game in 2 full seasons because of an elbow injury, it means that this guy has been on ice for the 49ers as Steve Young took the mantle of that QB1 and was going on and leading them to playoff victories and MVP awards and all that stuff. Montana's watching for 2 full seasons. So then the Chiefs go and acquire him. He becomes the starting quarterback, and it's not just Montana because simultaneously, Marcus Allen, maybe one of the greatest running backs of all time, leaves the Raiders to go to the arch rival Kansas City Chiefs. So Montana has this great regular season with the Chiefs. He goes 8-3 as a starter. Of course, missed some time with injury because apparently that's what Joe Montana did. Yeah. Marcus Allen had 15 touchdowns for the Chiefs, leading the entire NFL, and he wins NFL Comeback Player of the Year award. So here comes this Chiefs team with 2 old war horses, with 1 playoff win for the franchise in the past 20 seasons, and they're looking to go to the conference championship with a win in a house of horrors, which is the Houston Astrodome. But Montana did some Montana things the week earlier. They beat the Steelers in a wild card round game in overtime, where Montana finds Tim Barnett in the end zone and gets the victory when it looked like all obstacles were against him.
This is the season. 4th and goal at the 7-yard line.
If you didn't believe before, you believe now.
This is a fun Chiefs team, and it gets forgotten because of all the success they had with Marty Schottenheimer and, of course, Vermeil in the 2000s and lately Andy Reid. this was a bad franchise for 2 full decades. This was their real, renaissance of the Chiefs, and it was led by a 37-year-old Joe Montana. But their story of the season pales in comparison to what the 93 Oilers were, a team that I have long forgotten, but now remember and missed a lot of the details. Kyle, tell me about the 93 Houston Oilers.
All right, this was insane. So I want you to think about the 93 Oilers. They start their season, they're coming off the worst playoff loss in history. Now, this is the team, we all remember the blowing the lead in Buffalo, and they're up there, and they're up 35-3 in a playoff game. 35-3, and they lose, and it's Al Del Greco misses, and it's Frank Reich and all that stuff. Okay, this is the next season after that. How do you rise from the ashes? Not well. This Oilers team that's in a divisional round in a home playoff game starts 1-4. At one point during the season, and this is fascinating, Warren Moon is benched. I'm talking about a Hall of Fame quarterback who is benched for performance. And Peter, I was racking my brain if I can think of another time that happened where a Hall of Famer, I know during his last year, Peyton Manning was pulled for a game. And Brock Osweiler came in against the Chiefs, but Peyton came back. It wasn't like they're like, Peyton, you might be done. Warren Moon was benched for Cody Carlson in Week 7. Carlson gets hurt in the game. Moon comes right back in the same game. They rip off 11 wins in a row. But if you thought that was crazy, that's nothing. Offensive tackle David Williams, the lineman from back in the day. He missed a game for the birth of his child and got skewered for it. This was something in Houston was called Babygate. They were thin on offensive line at the time. The coaches and teammates did not support him. This is something that would have launched a million debate show segments. Huge deal there. And then they had tragedy. I mean, this is real serious stuff. Defensive tackle Jeff Alm, who some people in the Midwest might remember was a Notre Dame defensive tackle. He was on the Fighting Irish's last national championship team. Took his own life in the middle of the season. He was involved in an accident where a friend died. Week 15, they had a teammate, commit suicide, okay? Terrible, terrible, terrible. And then it just gets weird. And I'm telling you, this is one hell of a season. Week 17, nationally televised game. Defensive coordinator Buddy Ryan and offensive coordinator Kevin Gilbride get into a fist fight on the sideline. Punches are exchanged. It's absolutely wild.
That's Buddy Ryan taking a swing at Kevin Gilbride. Now that's hard to believe. That's baloney. I mean, it's just hogwash.
Then they go to the bye, and then we have this game against the Chiefs. So the last time we've seen the Oilers, Buddy Ryan was trying to knock out the offensive coordinator on national television. That brings us to this game. It's Montana, it's Moon, it's Buddy Ryan, it's Marcus Allen. Peter, let's run it back.
Let's run it back.
All right, so January 16th, 1994, let's jump right into it. Chiefs, Oilers. The first thing you notice when you turn on this game or when you pull up the YouTube, the Astrodome is a character in and of itself. It's a really incredible place, and it feels like I'm looking at something 70 years ago.
For the first time, Houston hosting an AFC Divisional Championship. And the Love Ya Blue pom-poms ready to wave.
The ridiculous AstroTurf is just green asphalt. It's so hard, so flat. The lights are very bizarre, and the broadcast team talks a lot about losing balls in the light, and it's kind of made for baseball. Also, Peter, I remember my memories of the Astrodome is there was a proliferation of homemade signs that people would bring. Like, I mean, they would spray paint bed sheets and hang them over the side. I also think it was a golden era for network acronym signs, like nobody beats champs, NBC. There's a lot of those in this game, and it's like the lighting kind of sucks, the field kind of sucks, and the game is kind of awesome. The Astrodome itself is just everywhere here.
I'm going to add a note on that because I'm watching the game, and the soundtrack to this game is fantastic. We're talking tag team, whoop, there it is. Every single time that Oilers make a big play.
It's a rough series for Montana.
Untouched. Looked to me like they brought 8 that time.
The Astrodome plays a huge role. The other thing that I noticed when you press play on this YouTube is Buddy Ryan is basically the entire broadcast. Every play, they go for a Buddy Ryan reaction shot. Offense, defense. The NBC director was told, we're getting Buddy Ryan, and we're getting a lot of them. And he wasn't the head coach.
I know. I found myself about 45 minutes into the game being like, Hold on a second. Was Ryan the head coach? Because I don't know who is. I'm not making this up. After kickoff, you go a full 42 minutes of YouTube time before you get a shot of Houston Oilers head coach Jack Pardee. And he's a complete afterthought. It's just the buddy cam the whole time.
And he's giving them what they want. Like,
Yeah.
when the offense was making decisions to go for, he's rolling his eyes. Like,
Yes.
he's fantastic.
Goes deep for Duncan, almost intercepted by Kevin Ross. I don't think Buddy would have called that play. I don't know what makes me feel that way.
Buddy Ryan, I know we've maybe watched TV with the Rob Ryan and the Rex Ryan. Like, Buddy Ryan was gold.
Yeah.
And this is an era that I don't even have great fondness for. Like, you think Bears defensive coordinator, you think Eagles head coach. Very seldom do you think of Oilers defensive coordinator, and Buddy, just a few weeks removed from punching the offensive coordinator, is the focus of this entire broadcast.
Yeah, the only person who's on camera more than Buddy is Joe Montana, and it's close, but you got to see, they're probably thinking like, Buddy might fight another coach like it happened in the last game, so stay on him. We also have to get into something that we just absolutely adore. Can we talk some gear? 1993, there's so many things that are incredibly dated. It really is kind of like an eBay sweet spot. If you're a collector, just get everything from this game. I mean, how much would you pay on eBay right now for Joe Montana's double red wristbands that are made by Easton?
Yes.
Easton, who I think all baseball with Easton.
Aluminum bat, me playing
Yes.
home run derby in my backyard in 8th grade.
It's Easton versus TPX
That
was
was it.
like the genesis versus, and Joe Montana, the greatest ever, has Easton wristbands, and we know, you know damn well, Peter, what Joe Montana's wearing on his feet.
Oh. Does it have two initials and the word gear attached to it?
Now, not the street hikers. That's for the weekend when you're hiking on the street. Joe Montana has giant, bulbous, high-top, white LA Gear sneakers. It was basically he and Karl Malone who were holding them down, the whole LA Gear industry. It was really at its apex at that point. And why do I say apex? Because there's Apex jackets on
Apex
everyone,
One,
including
everywhere.
Marty Schottenheimer. Apex. We
Yeah.
got Wilson jerseys, Russell Athletic, Apex, LA Gear. I absolutely drink it in and adore it. I love it.
And my note on the Russell Athletic jerseys, I love these Oilers jerseys. Like, they're like the Oilers uniforms, the baby blue with the red and the white. It's beautiful, and it's Russell Athletic, and now everyone's Nike, and it's souped up, and we have a different uniform change every year. There was something classic about that Oilers blue in that building against that Chiefs white, which is just such a beautiful color mix of the yellow, the red, and the white, and Montana with a beautiful, like, not a mullet, but like just salad coming out of the back of the helmet.
We're going to get into the proliferation of lax hair in this game. But Peter and I can spend 6 hours just talking about hair and gear. Let's get into the football. Schrager, the first chapter of this game goes pretty well for the home team.
Yeah, it's right out of the gates. The Oilers march to a 10-0 lead. Montana is intercepted on his first possession.
Intercepted. Steve Jackson to the 24.
And Gary Brown, who had this wonderful season filling in for an injured Lorenzo White, comes in and scores a 2-yard touchdown. It's all Oilers early, and it's not just Warren Moon throwing the ball over the yard. Their defense is playing, and it's like old Buddy Ryan guy, like Wilbur Marshall's making plays. There's a guy named Terry Hogue, who apparently has been with Buddy Ryan in a million stops beforehand. He's making plays. Oilers early, 10-0. Montana can't do anything with that Oilers defense coming at him.
He's hurt. He gets more hurt in this game. And then things just start to pile on because it's like the Astrodome is rocking. And it's like, this is it. At this point, they'd won 11 games in a row. They were the AFC Super Bowl favorite. They were going to take out the Bills and it was going to be crazy, but it did not go wrong. It did not go well in the end. We'll get to it. Every time we do one of these, we try to pick out one player that we haven't thought about in forever, or maybe that we didn't even know about. And this one's easy for me. If you watch this game, there is so much Gary Wellman.
Wide open is Wellman. And the little guy from Southern California has a 16-yard reception.
Webster Slaughter got hurt this year for the Oilers. Gary Wellman comes in. This gentleman is 5'9", 165. He is all over the field. He ran the 4x1 at USC. And I look at Gary Wellman in this game, Peter. I'm like, he would have roughly 160 catches in today's NFL. Like, he is the perfect, deceptively fast slot guy. He's everywhere. And yet, when you look at his picture, he looks like he's a 45-year-old man, like a realtor or something. Yep. And yet, he's a baby, and he's killing it. Gary Wellman, shout out, wherever you are.
Gary Wellman's the receiver, and that receiving group for the Oilers, you mentioned Webster Slaughter wasn't playing in this game, but Curtis Duncan, Haywood Jeffries, Ernest Givens, you have a place in your heart for this team because of Tecmo Bowl, like the old video game. Like, you'd play with the Oilers, and Ernest Givens, number 81, was typically open, but they were a really good unit, and Moon was throwing the ball all over the yard, and yet this game, it took until late in the fourth quarter for Warren Moon to really get going. But early on, it's all about the Chiefs' blown chances, like terrible blown chances. Montana throws a beautiful pass to Willie Davis, and Chris Dishman, number 28.
Dishman's everywhere.
He deflects this thing. He swats it away. It was like the Richard Sherman, Michael Crabtree play. It's incredible. But then a couple plays later, they get a 40-yard completion to J.J. Burden, and you're like, all right, here we go. It's wiped out because A, there's a false start, and B, Montana gets absolutely crushed. Like, Montana is knocked out. It looks like he's never coming back, but there was a false start. The play should have never even happened.
The tragedy of that for Montana is he should never have been hit. That was a no play.
Absolutely.
And that was something, Kyle, I wanted to mention. We are talking about a different football, and this is not 40 years. It's not leather helmets. People are getting the snot knocked out of them in this game.
And you just see them hitting that ridiculous turf, and you can feel the hits at home. It does feel very different. And remember, this is the venue that it was nicknamed the House of Pain during the Glanville era. And every time there's a big hit, whoop, there it is. It's just like, it's very pro wrestling, and it's very contagious as a viewer. You know, you mentioned the big miss deep to Davis. One of the things that I learned about Montana in this game that maybe I forgot is that I don't think he has a reputation of being an emotional player on the field. He's Joe Cool, like he's steady. He had some big reactions in this.
Montana goes deep, has a man open again. Oh my! Willie Davis, a short touchdown, right on his fingertips.
When Davis drops it, they go to the Montana cutaway, and it's that classic Joe Montana hands up. It's like he's obviously devastated.
Montana can't throw any better than that.
Boy, they don't have room service in the Astrodome, so it's not going to get any better than that.
So the terrible drop, the perfect pass, and the just great line from color commentator Bob Trumpy about room service. And Peter, you've been on the road enough. You know the great artists, they talk about what they see. I can't help but thinking that Trumpy had a club sandwich the night before, delivered room service to whatever hotel he was in, and it just came to him when the drop happened.
Trumpy's great in this game. Bob Trumpy. Like, funny, laughing, irreverent. I know Madden gets all the love for being Mr. Irreverence in the booth. And Bob Trumpy's cracking a lot of jokes. He's having a good time.
If you got a guy like Trumpy who's got fire and everything, the perfect thing happened for a color commentator. With the Oilers about to punch it in, and they're about to go up 17-0. Like, it's getting bad in the second quarter. There's a run that goes out of bounds. There's a late tackle out of bounds. And then all hell breaks loose. Ring the Jerry Springer bell.
Whoa, Lewis and Brown are really unhappy, and one of the officials takes the brunt of it. Whoops, little Derry Wellman down at the bottom of it. And with those punches, we might see some ejections, which could be very costly.
Derry Brown had a hold of Albert Lewis's face mask. Albert Lewis was upset about it, and then I'm not sure what happened next.
So that is not just a dust-up, Peter. That is a Royal Rumble, all right? And it honestly reminds me of an NBA-style, like, bench clear. If you were to tell me that was happening in Houston in the early 90s, I figured Mad Maxwell, had gone crazy. You got guys going down. You got punches. Derrick Thomas runs in. There's several guys after it. And what really makes me laugh afterwards out of this, you saw this terrible incident in a playoff game. There's 2 penalties on this side, 2 penalties on that side. So they're offsetting. There are no penalty yards for this, and there's no ejections.
No one's ejected.
It's just play on. What?
And what I find more fascinating, the broadcast moves right along. Like, it wasn't like they spent an hour. This wasn't the melee at the Palace. Like, this was, okay, it happened. There was a big brawl. Derrick Thomas, maybe the best defensive player in the sport, is involved in this brawl. He's not ejected. There's no real major, consternation that's held over from this. It doesn't spill over into the halftime report. There's no, at the time, whoever the NBC, it wasn't Will McDonough coming in saying all these guys are getting suspended. No, actually, it was fine. They moved right along, and I kind of appreciate that too.
I kind of did too, but it was a great looking brawl in the sense that a lot of people involved, nobody hurt, and then let's just play football, fellas. If that would happen now, and Todd Gurley was in a brawl with a linebacker, and then Von Miller ran in, that's a huge story, and it was over in 5 seconds here. That's 1994, January 94, and we kind of love it.
Yeah, and the half comes to an end, and it's 10-0 Oilers, and yet you don't get this feeling that the Oilers are dominating the Chiefs because the Oilers are getting crushed also. The Chiefs have all these sacks. Derrick Thomas and Neil Smith are unblockable, and it's just really between two teams that were supposed to be these offensive teams. It was a hideous first half, Kyle.
And it brings us to one of our favorite subcategories in what we do here, the jarring aesthetic. There's tons of them. Tons. We already talked about the gear, and we're going to get into some of the production elements, which are fantastic. But one of the most jarring aesthetics is how much what I would call lax hair is in the Astrodome, meaning lacrosse hair.
Okay.
L-A-X. Now, apparently back then, it was really cool to have the hair hanging out like the duck bill or the beaver paddle. Joe Montana's got it. Gary Wellman's got it, the Oilers receiver. Oilers safety Terry Hogue, who has an interception later in the game, has it. No one was getting the high and tight. Everybody has, it's as if they have the lacrosse helmet and a Johns Hopkins jersey because everybody has lax hair, and I like it.
Yeah, the hair in this thing is incredible. The look is incredible. At one point, you see the Oilers sideline, and there's guys wearing Zubaz pants, non-ironically. The look of everybody out there. You've got visors being worn. It looked cool to play football in 1993. Cool. Not everyone looked the same. They weren't all robots. Everyone had their own little unique thing, and I was here for it. They look right. Derrick Thomas is an absolute beast in this game, but he looks cooler than he even's playing.
Yeah, he's got he always had that gray undershirt hanging out from the pads. Neil Smith was the first guy I ever remember with the nose band, and he had it it was gold and red, and I was does he have a broken nose? No, it was they used to do the Breathe Right strips to make you breathe better. I feel like he was a forefather of the Breathe Right, but it looked weird at the time.
Yeah, and Montana looks different than he did with the Niners because he's kind of got that that long, dangling hair. He's 37 years old, but his hair looks like he's a 22-year-old surfer. He looked cool.
He did, and you know what? I'm thinking of Montana, and I'm thinking on the other side of the ball. If I was to do a Hall of Fame for just players that just look cool on the field, Brian Dawkins is obviously in.
Yeah.
Warren Moon looked amazing.
Yeah.
He looks so. He's unbelievably handsome. He has a mustache. He's wearing the Oilers blue. He's got the absolute Rembrandt of a delivery. I just like watching Warren Moon. I love it.
Yeah, and this third quarter starts. They're down 10-0. And Montana says, let's get going. They cut to a sideline shot of Montana, and he's got this great smile to him. Almost don't worry that we're down 10-0. I'm Joe freaking Montana. I'll take care of it. And guess what? He does. He leads a quick touchdown drive to kick off the second half. He hits J.J. Burden. He hits Willie Davis for big gains. And then he throws a touchdown pass to a player named Keith Cash.
That was the first Chiefs first down by run. Now a play action wide open is the tight end, and Cash has a touchdown. Oh my! You see Keith Cash, he drilled that one. The bullseye was Buddy.
So much to deconstruct there. All right. Wildly disrespectful by Keith Cash, spiking the ball in the face of the coordinator. I just think also we need to back up for a second. The fact that there was even a giant painting of Buddy Ryan's face that a fan made, apparently.
I mean, it looks like a Picasso of
really
Buddy
good.
Ryan.
They took off their bedsheet and either commissioned it or painted it themselves, and it happens to be right there, and he throws the ball in the face. And I always try to bring it to modern day. like if there had been like a poster of like Wade Phillips or Greg Williams and someone did that, it would not go over well. I think, first of all, with the broadcast team and with the other team, like you almost have to fight that guy.
Yeah, like Trumpy's chuckling.
He's hilarious. Do you think Collinsworth would think that was funny if that happened now? I don't.
I don't think so. I think people would be a lot different. Like,
Me too.
If there was, I'm trying to think of a defensive coordinator that is a big personality. I think Greg Williams is perfect.
Yeah.
And like, if Gronk spiked it on Greg Williams's face, like,
Yes.
people would be like, "That's immature of Gronk." And this is not the person doing it is not Jerry Rice or Terrell Owens or an all-timer. It's Keith Cash, the tight end for the 93 Chiefs, and he hurls it at Buddy Ryan's face, and they're still losing 10-7.
It's funny because, Odell Beckham lifts his leg for a quarter of a second in the end zone, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, cover my children's eyes!" Like he threw a ball in the face, and it's like you couldn't turn on First Take or Good Morning Football. It was like just Bob Lee giving you the highlight on SportsCenter and not really editorializing much about it. Maybe there was like a movie reference or something from Craig Kilborn, but that's it.
Yeah, no, and like it's funny because my memory of this game is that spike. And that's it. And when I go back and think, and we talked about the Chiefs a lot the last few years in the playoffs, I always talk about, well, they haven't had a great playoff win since, of course, the 93 playoff win where it was Keith Cash spiking the ball on a game-winning touchdown. But it wasn't a game-winning touchdown. It wasn't. It was early in the half, and they would actually rely on the defense to carry them because Montana is still moving the ball. But, like, this is where we have to talk about just how good that Chiefs defense was. A Marty Schottenheimer coach team, okay? But the defense, and not Montana, and not Marcus Allen, and not J.J. Burden or Keith Cash, were dominating. And Derrick Thomas, Kyle, is an absolute wrecking ball.
Derrick Thomas is a complete football player. Rushes the passer, makes the plays downfield, stuffs the run.
And he'll make the big play, that turnover play that Marty is so enamored of.
He's on the way up, too, because you can tell even just watching the production, they don't spend a lot of time on Derrick Thomas at the beginning of the game. You can tell he's come into his prime. I remember I have a memory, I don't know if it was produced by NFL Films or somebody, but back in the day, there was a piece on Derrick Thomas that they did, and he has this message at the end of it where he goes, "Watch out, LT, you own the 80s, but the 90s belong to DT." And I was like, oh, that guy's really cool. And he and Neil Smith effectively take over this game, and there's nothing Warren Moon can do about it.
They sack Warren Moon 9 times. Defensive backs are flying all over the place for the Chiefs. There's a guy named Benny Thompson wearing number 46 who's flying all over the field and is like the pump-up guy. So they're getting to Warren Moon, but Montana's taking a beating in this game too. I mean, an absolute beating. Chiefs are rolling a little bit, but Montana gets hit in the left hand, and it kills all momentum.
3rd and 4 for Montana. Incomplete to Burton. Steve Jackson on man coverage, and Montana holding that left hand as he gets up slowly.
He's so freaking tough. Like, he's grimacing, he's taking a hit.
Montana biting his lip, and he's trying not to show that he's hurt, but he is in pain.
Later on, they would show his elbow. It's swollen, looks like a baseball's on the elbow. He also missed 2 seasons. Let me read it. 2 full seasons with an elbow injury. Imagine that happened now with a quarterback. You would a quarterback at the top of his game. This is after the Leonard Marshall hit in the 90 NFC Championship game. To see a guy miss 2 full seasons and come back. But guys, like, Montana missed 53 career games during his career. 53. That's almost 4 seasons of NFL football in the prime of his career. And this game, he's getting the snot kicked out of him, but he gets up every single time, Kyle.
I know. And what strikes me about it, watching it back, was that, right now in the NFL, you look at just someone like a Cam Newton or even Dak Prescott, these giant, big leg, strong people. Joe Montana was so skinny and almost gangly and small. And going into this game, we talked about it. He took a huge hit the week prior against Pittsburgh, and they even say it on the broadcast, which they wouldn't do anymore, where they say, he took the injection right before the game. So they talk about that. And they also did the classic thing in this game where they show a graphic of Joe Montana's body and start showing all the different body parts, the shoulder, the elbow, the da-da-da-da. Like they make up like basically the Voltron of injuries.
Montana and injuries have gone side by side. He's taken his licks through the years, some very serious.
So he's had it all. And what also jumps out to me is that he's taking so many hits to his legs. There's a lot of low hits where guys lunge.
Montana going long.
Another desperation throwaway by Joe Montana.
I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is taking those hits. I don't think that I know Patrick Mahomes is not taking those hits. It's just, the game has changed a lot.
Yeah, it's both the rules. It's also the way these offenses are built. They don't just have him back there like sitting ducks in the pocket, getting crushed. And it's also the athletic ability of these quarterbacks. Let's call it like it is. Montana's not running for 95 yards in this game. Montana's sitting there, and he's just taking hits. What I will note, though, it's almost like, he misses all the... At no point in our childhoods watching this game, do you remember people picking him apart saying he wasn't a tough player, he wasn't a clutch player? Nowadays, if a starting quarterback missed 2 full seasons and then was out, he missed a bunch of starts, it wouldn't be like the sacred cow. People would be picking him apart saying, all right, he's not tough or he's brittle. You never really heard that with Montana.
Well, yeah, I would go back to the Cam Newton thing. All we say is, well, he's done, he's washed, he's injured too much, he's an MVP. But you're right. I think Montana just got the benefit of the doubt. This is why we do this, because I don't think people remember that Joe Montana missed over 50 games in his career, but he did. But he didn't miss much in this game. This is when things start going.
Starts going.
Bob Trumpy in his element, waxing poetically about this is why the Chiefs got Montana for this situation.
It's the 4th act of the play. Joe Montana is center stage.
And he heats up. We got a pass interference penalty.
From the 49 of Houston, Montana going long for Willie Davis. And Davis, there's interference at the 10-yard line. Chris Dishman draws the yellow flag, and it'll be a first down, Kansas City near the 10-yard line.
You get a big completion, and then you get the big touchdown at the end, and it's just Joe being Joe, and I'm in 8th grade and doing backflips.
In front of the largest crowd ever to see a game in the Astrodome. Underneath to Burton. Touchdown!
Nick, they beat the 46. Montana gets the blitz 46. It's unbelievable. Montana is brilliant in recognizing and reading defenses. Again.
It's how we talk about Tom Brady now.
The 46 defense. You've got 2 linebackers, free safety, man-to-man. He beat Buddy Ryan's defense again.
What I love about it is that, they take this 14-13 lead, and all of a sudden you feel all the momentum switch. I mean, it completely changes. The momentum is all in the Chiefs' favor, and that's in front of 61,000 fans to what Dick Enberg said was the largest crowd ever to watch a football game in the Astrodome.
And it's funny, too, because all the shots always go to Buddy Ryan afterwards and that incredible hat-jacket combination. And he said after the game, they said, Buddy, what happened? And Buddy said, we kept knocking him down and thinking that we'd hurt Joe, and he kept getting back up. He looked like the same old Montana to me. I feel like he has the hot hand now. He just wants the ball, he wants the heat check, and he just keeps going and going. And the other guy who has the hot hand, Derrick Thomas. Meanwhile, poor Warren Moon is trying to put the Oilers on his back. He doesn't have 2 seconds. We said it over and over. 9 sacks. He kept fumbling, and then DT gets a big one here.
Now it's Moon's turn. Hit again and fumbles. Derrick Thomas forced the fumble, and Kansas City recovers.
And now it's 14-13 Chiefs, and Montana smells blood on the water, and you look to the Houston defense, and Buddy, it's like, we need a stop. We need an energizer. Give us something. They knock him into a 3rd and 16, and this is the moment you need the defense to make a play. But Montana goes Montana. Enjoy this. Come for the Montana, stay for Bob Trumpy talking trash, and make sure not to miss the Herm Edwards cutaway in the booth. This is absolutely beautiful.
Montana throwing for Davis. Oh! Touchdown! He stole it from right around the defender, Steve Jackson. Or was it Dishman? It was Dishman.
Unbelievable catch.
Dishman was running in tandem with Davis, and he reached right around him for the score.
Great Herm shot.
Yeah.
You can't get Willie Davis out there in the open. He needs company. He likes the crowd. One hand he catches it with. Makes the half spin, catches it. In your face, Dishman.
How about in your face, Dishman? Awesome pass. Awesome catch by Willie Davis. You go to the shot of Herm. He's obviously a defensive coach. Yep. Paul Hackett, the new offensive coordinator for the Chiefs that year, is there. His son right now, Nathaniel Hackett, is the offensive coordinator of Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. So they've got bloodlines, all sorts of things.
That's right.
And yet it's 21-13. And if you're the viewer, you still have no idea what's going on because of the visual elements of watching a football game in 1993, Kyle.
We can't stress this enough. You're watching a playoff game with two Hall of Fame quarterbacks. It's the fourth quarter. It's a close game. You have no idea how much time is left or even what the score is. If you walk into the living room, turn on the game, who's winning? No idea. I don't know, because there's no on-screen representation. There's no clock. And frankly, the broadcast team doesn't say it much. They're not like 6:30 remaining, Chiefs up, whatnot. So now in this world, never mind what some other scores were around the league this weekend. We don't even know the score of this game. And as we're coming down to this rather harrowing finish, it'd kind of be nice to know if there's 3 minutes left or 8 minutes, because I don't.
Yeah, and Kyle, there's two Hall of Fame quarterbacks going at it in a playoff game between two titans of the league that year. You've got all these Hall of Famers. You've got Munchak out there. Obviously, you've got Marcus Allen. You've got all these players everyone knows. And I don't know what quarter it is. I don't know what down it is. I don't know how much time. I don't know timeouts. There's nothing. And yet people of great football love and who watch those games and talk to us in our generation, you never hear them mention, but I don't remember knowing what the score was when the game was going on.
It's a good point, because I can't remember sitting in my family room and my dad being like, why don't they show the score? How much time? I think we just took it and liked it. I don't think we knew what we were missing at all. It's funny because when it gets down to the final minutes, the on-screen representation of the game clock is an actual shot of the clock in the stadium. And it's just a close-up of they have no graphic tick down.
So when they needed Warren Moon the most, he suddenly becomes Warren Moon and gets red hot, goes on this incredible drive, hits 8 straight completions, down 21-13, and then he throws a touchdown to one of my favorite players of this era, Mr. Ernest Givens.
Moon throws a touchdown. Givens. 8 consecutive completions to pull Houston to 21-19.
Peter, let's give it up for Ernie Givens. What an unbelievable dance. And you know what I like about it? I like the authenticity. We now are in the age of the pre-rehearsed and everyone's doing the group celebration, and I like it. But, Ernest Givens was not trying to get on the check down. He just felt like dancing a little bit, and it just came out authentically, and I think it really, really worked.
The electric slide gets overlooked a lot when it comes to great touchdown dances. That was his thing, and it's not just a slide. He does the shimmy afterwards, and then Travis Hanna, his teammate, comes and tackles him. But the truth is, there's now 3 minutes left. They score a touchdown, so you'd think, let's go for 2, right? And Kyle, what's the answer to that?
All right, so there's nothing that we could show you in this game or any other that makes me feel more strange than this. 3 and a change left, like Peter said. They get it down to where they're down 2 points. And they come out and kick a 1-point kick because there's no 2-point conversion. Can you imagine being down 21-13 and Warren Moon puts him on his back and throws the touchdown? Well, sorry, you can't go for 2. You just have to helplessly kick the 1-pointer and potentially go on to lose by 1 point. So the fact that they send out the kicker to do that because they had no choice, this had to be behind closed doors, one of the impetus to get the 2-point conversion here, because you needed it badly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They didn't bring in the 2-point conversion till later. And I remember Tom Tupo, the first 2-point conversion in NFL history. But college always had it. It was just one of these things where it's like,
I know.
NFL doesn't do it. What a great, great thing to adopt from the college game. It just might have happened too late for the Houston Oilers.
Yeah, Tommy Frazier could go for 2, but Warren Moon can't. How is that fair? Somebody answer me that. But Joe gets the ball back, and he still has the lead. And Joe does what Joe does. He goes down the field, and it gets to the point on a 3rd and 2, right after the 2-minute warning. Again, Houston down 1, 2 minutes, 3rd and 2. Make a stop.
And now it comes down to stopping Kansas City on 3rd and 2 to get the ball back, trailing by 1. The ball at the 21-yard line. And remember, Montana earlier in this quarter on 3rd and 1 in his own end threw the ball, and that was the big play to catch.
It's not a bad call right now.
No timeouts for Houston. They give to Allen. He's got the first down. He's got a touchdown. Two great veterans, one hands to the other, and Kansas City has scored with 1:55 to go.
All they need is a stop to get the ball into Moon's hands, and it can't get it done. And the reaction shots of all of those people involved, whether it be Montana or Herm Edwards or Paul Hackett or Marty Schottenheimer, they all pale in comparison to Buddy Ryan just saying, "Ah!"
It's the cutaway of all cutaways, because you knew it was over. You knew the run in Houston was over. It's funny, we're laughing about it because they went down 8 points. That's a wrap. That's two scores. You can't go for two. It was funny, the Marcus Allen run was one of those runs where, in the textbook they say you're supposed to go down on the 1 yard line. Yeah. It's like Damian Williams against the 49ers in this past year's Super Bowl. He was just gone, and he's technically supposed to take a knee, but screw it, we're going up and we're winning. And that was a wrap. I mean, that was the game, and as we said, Peter, that was a wrap for a lot of things in Houston.
It was, and things would never be the same. The Oilers were blown up after this, and Bud Adams, the owner of the team before the season, said it's like Super Bowl or bust, and it really was. They would trade Warren Moon, a Hall of Fame quarterback, to the Minnesota Vikings. Buddy Ryan would become the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals for 2 seasons.
2 years, not much. Never coached again.
That was it. Never coached again. And Ray Childress, who was a great defensive player for the Oilers, years later said that game was the real low. You go from being part of teams with great teammates and great coaches to obviously go into full-blown rebuilding mode overnight. That was the low point. So think about the Oilers in this one. You go from that historic playoff loss to Frank Reich and the Bills to this terrible loss at home in the playoffs, where eventually the owner says, all right, blow the whole thing up. And a few years later, they would move to Tennessee and become the Titans.
So it begs the question, if Montana doesn't get hot in the second half here, or if Warren Moon is sacked 5 times instead of 9, is it too crazy to say we could still have the Houston Oilers right now?
Yeah, it's not that crazy at all, because this team was one of the most popular teams. They were one of the most beloved teams, and they were loaded with talent. I mean, loaded. Gary Brown was a good running back, but Lorenzo White was really good. The wide receivers were really good. They had Hall of Famers in Matthews and Munchak on the offensive line. And if they win this game, they get a rematch with the Bills. Who knows what happens there? And they ultimately would have played the Cowboys in the Super Bowl, and who knows what happens there?
Yeah, I mean, then we're talking about, it's Jimmy and like the Dave Wanstead coordinator and Norv, and they're going against Buddy. That's fantastic stuff. But we never got it because Warren Moon could not stand up, and Joe was Joe.
And Buddy Ryan couldn't get a defensive stop.
All right, well, Peter, I think you're getting there already. This game, we look back on it now. We just went through the whole thing. Chiefs Oilers Division Round 1994. What will you remember about this game? What's your biggest takeaway?
It's Montana. It's Montana at 37 years old, not being vintage Joe Montana. Let's show you I'm going to throw the ball for 400 yards. No, Montana gets intercepted in this game. He gets knocked around in this game. He misses receivers in this game. But when they need him most, he throws 3 touchdown passes in the second half. They score 21 points in the fourth quarter, and they put this game away on the arm and on the guile and the veteran leadership of Joe Montana. I know his Super Bowls are what everyone points to. He's got 4 of them. He's 4-0. He threw 16 touchdowns and 0 interception Super Bowl play. But this game at 37 years old is right up there in the great Montana performances, because at no point did you feel like the Chiefs were done. And at no point did you feel like they were actually going to lose this one on the road in a hostile environment. Montana, just awesome.
The players afterwards, it was like they had a religious experience on both sides of the ball. Neil Smith said afterwards, I always saw those Montana comebacks with the Niners. Now he's on my team and doing it. And even Oilers safety Bubba McDowell on the other side of the ball said, just amazing. Absolutely amazing. It's almost like Joe Montana's got magic. Seriously, how does he do it? It's like he's asking the reporter for an answer of how he does it. He was starstruck, and they just didn't have it against Joe. What I will remember about this is just kind of a blanket statement that the Houston Oilers were awesome. I mean, they were really, from everything, there's probably people watching this right now who were not alive for the Oilers. Everything about their team name and the helmet logo, and obviously, you know, the jerseys. Everyone always freaks out about the San Diego Chargers or the LA Chargers powder blues. Like, the Oilers wear those every game for home, and it's like, I look at the Houston Oilers, Peter, like they're the NFL's Seattle Supersonics. Like, they were so cool, so rock and roll, such a cool look. You die for their merchandise right now, and they were taken away from us. And, you know, it's funny, I know that J.J. Watt, amongst others, has said, I would love to wear the Oilers uniforms, but the Oilers technically became the Titans, and it's a different team. So, like, the Houston Texans couldn't really wear the Houston Oilers things, and he's been told that. But there's such an affection I have for not only that period, but that team.
The Houston Oilers, great franchise, great history. Of course, the AFL, never a Super Bowl contender, and never a team to even get to play in that big game.
Too much Joe, too much Derrick Thomas. Peter, that's it. That's Run It Back. We will come back next time. Who knows what we'll do? 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s.
I love it. And I'm going to put on some LA gear and just chill out and draw a sign of a defensive coordinator.
See you next time. Run It Back.